Across this country, the week of November 24th to December 1st marks Canadian HIV/AIDS Awareness Week. It is an occasion to raise awareness surrounding HIV/AIDS issues nationally and culminates in the international observance of World AIDS Day on December 1st. World AIDS Day is an opportunity for people worldwide to unite in the fight against HIV, to show support for people living with HIV, and to commemorate those who have died from an AIDS-related illness. Founded in 1988, World AIDS Day was the first ever global health day. As someone who's lived with HIV since February of 2015, this observance is a very personal one. And since taking on the persona of the accidental HIV activist, every day has become HIV/AIDS awareness. I've called upon a few of my friends and colleagues in the fight against HIV to share some of their insights and experiences. Each of these individuals leaves me feeling humbled, inspired, and validated in the work we do to end the HIV epidemic. These are the faces of HIV today. These are the voices of HIV today. These are the people who recognize that HIV is a virus and that stigma is the disease.
Hello, my name is Kelly. I'm a woman living with HIV for 35 plus years. I'm undetectable, which means U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. But today I'm talking about stigma, because stigma is real, especially for a straight woman living in the rural area and trying to date, because some people don't have the knowledge about HIV. And I want you to get to know me first. I am first. HIV is something that I live with. I, on a regular basis, take my antiretroviral therapy. But stigma is still real, especially when dating. You know, you want someone to get to know you as a person. And then you have to sit them down and have that conversation to say, hey, by the way, I'm HIV positive, but I'm undetectable. And let's have an open conversation around it. But people still think that, you know, if we have unprotected sex, that you're going to get HIV from me. I supply them with all the brochures and all the information that they want and need to understand undetectable equals untransmittable. And this is the reason why I do the work I do at the Gilbert Center. As a straight woman, it is difficult and can be very challenging to be dating and the stigma around it, and trying to smash stigma all the time, and be in community and talk to community groups around being HIV positive. On World AIDS Day, it's so important. HIV is the disease. Stigma is still real.
Hi everyone, my name is Kira Salib. I was diagnosed with HIV in June 2007. Ever since I found out my diagnosis, stigma has changed over the years. I do remember at first, obviously, I was ashamed, I was scared, I did not have any resources available for me. Over time, things have changed, and now I've become an activist, very vocal about my HIV status and so on. But what's very interesting is throughout the years, seeing the change with social media platforms, that's where I went back into the closet for a moment. I went back, I was scared to admit that I was HIV positive online and tell people through dating apps and so on. And I was also going through a health change in my life. So things were very interesting. It literally just, I was empowered, and then all of a sudden I went and hid myself again. But I'm so glad that this has changed, and I've used this as a moment of empowerment, and especially towards people of color, people of Middle Eastern descent, experience as myself, because I do remember the shame that I used to, and the stigma that I used to associate towards people living with HIV/AIDS. I was not good. I was awful. I was mean. I was ignorant. I was uneducated. And then when this happened to me, everything took a different turn and changed completely. And I'm happy it did. I call it my morbid blessings. Stigma is still there. It's not going anywhere for a while, it seems. So a lot of work still has to be done. I do have my moments where I've learned when it is safe to disclose my status. I don't have to always disclose my status. Neither should anyone really. Disclose it only when you feel safe to do so. That's so important to protect yourself because of stigma. Stigma could be not just verbally, it could be physically violent as well. So that being said, we still have a lot of work to do, and that's it. That's stigma and me in a nutshell.
Hi, my name is Maluba, and I was born with HIV. I've been living with the virus for 27 years now. I don't know if I should be looking there or there. So I will switch and rotate. I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys on World AIDS Day about stigma and discrimination. Because I was born with the virus, I had to grow up with it, and I learned, about the virus and about treatment, so I was so educated in HIV. And then I would just see so many people online and in the world that were so uneducated about it, including adults. I would have, I had a teacher kind of give false information about HIV, and then all of the students joke about there being HIV on the doorknob when someone touched it, and joking about making out and, transmitting HIV, and they didn't even know they were insulting me at the time. And I would be scared to kind of confront those situations, because then, of course, people would expose or figure out that I would have HIV and that my family had HIV. And my family was so secretive about it, and my mom was so pressing that there's so much stigma and bullying. So I grew up really scared and sheltered, and just even the adults in my life couldn't, compare. I had a mentor that invited me over to her house for dinner with her husband, and served her food on her, nice porcelain plates, and her husband foods on nice porcelain plates, and gave me a paper cup and a paper plate. And I felt very disrespected, and I was about 10 years old, and it's something I cried about and told my mom, and it just really sucked because she was the adult in that situation and put me in that situation. I was heartbroken. So growing up was tough, and then going into my 20s, after my mother and father passed away, I was still very scared of, sharing this virus and what could happen to me. I'm a Black woman out here. I know that, there's many reasons for people to discriminate against me. So I was very protective with myself, and still was. And now that I'm public with my HIV status, of course, there's for every 10 supportive comments, there's 2 hateful comments. And it's either somebody that's ignorant or not educated, or somebody that just personally wants to be mean and be like, haha, you have HIV. And it can get hurtful sometimes. I have no time for it in my life. I'm not stigma and discrimination. I just have no time to tolerate that, but I'm not gonna lie and say it doesn't ever have an effect on me, because it has before. So I encourage you all to think about little ways that you have maybe been stigmatizing to somebody living with HIV, and how you can do better for the 2021 new year. We're not asking to be treated, special or anything. It's just equity and being treated equal and fairness, because people with HIV are not a threat or a danger. And I want to say to all my peers living with HIV, stigma doesn't have to be all part of it. I know it's a tough part of it, and I'm never going to diminish that, but I want to validate your feelings and tell you that there are a lot of good people out there, and I hope that you are able to get to a space where stigma, isn't the main focus, and you are able to put it to the back of your head. And I want to send my love to everybody on World AIDS Day, and thanks for listening.
For me, stigma has shown up in two very different ways. Now, there is the external, from the outside world. The things that people say on dating apps, calling me dirty or slut, or the people on social media who have their own ideas about what a person living with HIV is, saying that God is punishing me or that I deserved it. And then there's the time that I was with my friends in a bar, and this complete stranger told my friends not to drink after me. Now, while those external sources can be hurtful, it can be painful, none of that compares to the weight of the internalized stigma that so many of us experience, including me. So back when I was first diagnosed, that minute that she told me that my test had come back positive, the weight of shame and feeling unworthy of belonging was so heavy. But I got really lucky. I was diagnosed in 2016, and shortly after my diagnosis, within the first 6 months somewhere, I found a video about a man. I found a video of a man who was so passionately talking about a fact that so few people were talking about. And that man was Bruce Richmond. And that fact was U equals U. When I learned I couldn't transmit the virus once I was undetectable, that changed the game for me. And don't get me wrong, there are days that I still think thoughts about myself related to my diagnosis. But the difference is that I know the truth. And I look at how far I've come in the last 4 years, and all the things that I've accomplished because of that diagnosis. And you can't tell me that people living with HIV are dirty or sluts or any of those things, because I know the truth. The truth is that people who are living with HIV are strong and resilient, and they are powerful. And I hope that people who see this recognize that and own their power.
Hi, I'm Beyonce. I remember when I became HIV positive, I was scared. To me, it was a death sentence, and I was counting my days. I always felt that as long as I stayed alive long enough to receive the cure, that I would be okay. But there was a breakthrough. U equals U, and that means undetectable, untransmittable, which gave me hope, which changed my life, which allowed me to be honest with myself and others, which allowed me to have a voice to say that I cannot infect you as long as I stick to my treatment that my doctor has prescribed to me, as long as I am committed to staying on my meds and I remain undetectable. There is no way possible that I can pass HIV along to anyone. I am actually proud to say that. I haven't always been proud of my HIV diagnosis just because of the stigma that it brings when you say that you have HIV. Whether it's hugging someone, sharing utensils with someone, maybe even sneezing in an environment where people are negative, and because they're not educated, they feel that I have now infected them or I'm trying to infect them. I am very proud to say that this campaign, I Can't Pass It On, U equals U, loving yourself, there's many campaigns, and I'm proud to be a part of this moment in time to educate and help provide preventive measures to people that may not be as educated as some of us are. There are still people out there that don't know that HIV positive, that don't know that being on ARTs means ultimately a longer lifespan and the fact that you can't infect anyone. I am proud to be part of a movement or a campaign called Owning HIV. Owning HIV was launched and geared to young adults to see how much they truly know about HIV. And if you would like to, you can Google or hashtag Owning HIV to learn more about the survey that we've launched. One of the survey findings that we found was that young adults still believe that if you hug someone that you can catch HIV. This was a little alarming and quite upsetting that people still think like this in the time that we live in today. What can I say about it? All I can say is, do your research, take a treatment option that's right for you, talk to your doctor, and ultimately, don't be afraid to love again. Most of us contracted HIV and stopped loving ourselves. Well, it's time for you to love yourself again. Treat yourself kindly. Take your meds if you need to take them. Don't take them if you don't want to take them. But when you're ready to become undetectable and not transmit the virus, then you too can enjoy a happy and healthy life. Let me take that back. Let me not say that you too can enjoy a happier, healthier life. All I'm saying is that when you become undetectable, you cannot transmit the virus, and ultimately, it can make you actually feel better about yourself. My self-esteem was on the rise when I found out that I can't transmit the virus to anyone else, and that, for me, brings me a great joy. So I celebrate you all who are undetectable. I celebrate you all who are trying to become undetectable. And I celebrate you all that are not undetectable, because let's be real, not everybody can afford the medicine, and the medicine's not always available to anyone, but you also matter, and it doesn't count you out. It just means that you have to work a little bit harder to get there. So I send my love to you all who are undetectable and not undetectable, and I send my love to all you brave people out there who are speaking up and sharing this message that we have the power to not spread this virus, and we can ultimately end this epidemic. Thank you for your time. I'm Beyonce Jones.
We are married and living with HIV. Marriage has brought us 36 years of togetherness. Happy wife, happy life. Am I right about it? HIV has brought us 14 years of stigmatizing rumors. Rumor number one, I'm a black undercover MSM that brought home and gifted her with HIV. Rumor number two,
a piece of a man is better than no man at all, which is why I choose to look the other way.
what did we do about this stigma? We became more transparent and visible in the HIV community as a couple. Along with two other advocates, we started the Houston Heterosexual HIV Awareness Task Force. We brought awareness and straight information to men and women in the heterosexual community. We became peer group facilitators for several HIV support groups. We are members of POP, the Positive Organizing Project, a organization geared towards advocacy and building leadership skills. I'm also a part of the Bowtie Movement, created to give support to heterosexual men living with HIV.
We're also involved in the anti-stigmatizing language campaign, stressing the importance of using the correct language to reduce or stop stigma in people living with HIV. We are changing the way people see us as a couple living with HIV.
So I think this is kind of a story about how stigma was one of the motivators, obviously, for the U equals U campaign. But my personal experience with stigma was kind of absurd, actually. So I was diagnosed in 2003, and I knew that treatment would keep me alive. I was fortunate enough to have access to treatment and care and services, but I didn't want to be alive because I felt like no one would love me, and I was terrified of passing on HIV to someone that I loved. So I didn't love, and I totally withdrew. And for about 6 years, until about 2009, I was barely intimate with anyone and really isolated myself. And around 2009, I started thinking, well, maybe I can do this. You know, I actually hadn't started treatment. I didn't want to take a pill that reminded me every day that I had HIV. I still felt so toxic and shameful. I'm ashamed of myself, but I wanted to get out there. So I did, I was on Connection, this online dating app. And in 2009 was my first date. And I was going to go and tell this guy, perhaps that dinner, maybe the next dinner. I met him. He's super liberal, really nice guy, loves camping and outdoors and all those things. And I'm thinking, gosh, should I tell him now? When should I tell him? When should I tell him? And I didn't. He did it for me. He basically got it out there. He said, I don't date guys who are HIV positive, just to put that out there. And he said, do you? And I said, oh, I don't, and I'm sure he could see my heart just sinking down into my stomach and my shoulders going down because I felt so awful. I still remember it. I actually saw the guy on Facebook a few years ago. So that was it. I just, we ended the dinner. I didn't call him back. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. I said, okay, I'm going to get back up on that horse. And on Match.com, I found a guy who was a former yoga teacher, spiritual seeker. There are photos of him like doing handstands on rocks and out in the mountains with just like his backpack with his shirt off and like all of this like nature lover. Scroll to the bottom, HIV negative only. So are you kidding me? This guy is like spiritual. So then again, I looked again, I went back to Connection, and then I saw this guy who was a head of an LGBTQ organization. Good looking guy. He had actually messaged me just like the other one. And I thought, oh, he's a head of an organization, LGBTQ. I know he ended up moving on to work in HIV as well. HIV negative only. So again, on my heart, literally at that time, my heart went out my mouth and I felt like I was going to throw up. So moved to New York. You fast forward about 5 years. And I was moving to New York. I was starting the U equals U campaign. We hadn't launched yet, but I was talking with researchers and I went to a barbecue and I met a guy. I remember seeing him across the room. I was like, God, that guy is really handsome. He's too good looking for me. So this guy came over and we started talking. We had a beer, and he does work as a social justice lawyer. He's also was a former yoga teacher, which was like so cool, vegetarian, and we decided to have dinner. And we met in the West Village, and it was really good conversation. And I was so excited. Okay, here I'm going to talk to him about U equals U. And I'm going to tell him now I actually have the research on my phone that I can show him, he doesn't need to be afraid of me. This is really exciting news. We can be intimate. We can do whatever we want. And no worries. So I told him about it. I'm undetectable. This is the campaign that I'm starting. And he's like, this is really interesting. I don't know anyone who's HIV positive. And that's weird because I'm 35 and I don't know anyone. I said, yeah, you probably do know people, but they probably aren't out about it yet. We're not yet in an environment where everybody can feel that they can come out as HIV positive. We will be there someday. So we went back to his house. I was feeling pretty hopeful, and we got into bed, and we started going at it, and he was clearly afraid. He was like like shaking. And I said, are you okay? What's going on here? It seems like you're concerned. What's up? And he was like, I haven't been with anyone who's positive. I just don't know what I can and can't do. And I said, well, you can do anything because I'm undetectable. And I started to like go through the research, and I just said, I'm really sorry. I'm not going to do this. And I don't want anyone else to do this either. I don't want anyone to have to prove they're not dangerous. I don't want anyone to have to give a science lesson before sex. I want this to be well known, and I have a lot of work to do. And so I went back home and just put all of my energy into Undetectables Untransmittable campaign. No one living with HIV is a danger, regardless of their viral load. There are all kinds of ways that we can have happy and hot, safe sex. And so that stigma was just another factor that really motivated me to focus on this and make sure that we get this message out to everyone, not just people living with HIV, but also to the public, and especially to gays and bisexual and same-gender loving men on the apps who can continue to be so cruel to each other and continue to scapegoat each other. We have to get this message out. So thank you, Stigma. I appreciate it. And to all those 4 of those guys, if you ever see this again, thank you for helping me get to this place where I am super motivated and where I experienced stigma head on. And I had it easy compared to most people. I mean, I was safe. I was bigger than all of you guys. My life wasn't being threatened by so many, so many of our transgender women living with HIV and sex workers are in positions where stigma can get them killed. And so we've got to get this message out urgently.
I want to give a sincere and heartfelt thank you to my friends Kelly, Kiro, Maluba, Calvin, Yonsei, Eunice and Calvin, and the fabulous Bruce Richmond, founder of the U equals U message and movement, for being so open and raw in sharing their perspectives with us. For information on how you can get involved in helping end HIV, reach out to me at randyd@gilbertcenter.ca. Remember me. To the living, I am gone. To the sorrowful, I will never return. To the angry, I was cheated. But to the happy, I am at peace. And to the faithful, I have never left. I cannot be seen, but I can be heard. So as you stand upon a shore, gazing at a beautiful sea, remember me. As you look in awe at a mighty forest and its grand majesty, remember me. As you look upon a flower and admire its simplicity, remember me. Remember me in your heart, your thoughts, your memories of the times we loved, the times we cried, the times we fought, and the times we laughed. For if you always think of me, I will never be gone.